Electrocast.
Your teen requested a ride, but this time not from you. It's through their Uber teen account. You drive your teenager around, a lot, to their friend Jacob's house, their other friend Jake's house, to James's, to Jaden's, to Jalen's, to...
Mom? This is Jake's house, not Jacob's.
Now with an Uber teen account, your teen can request a ride under your supervision. They'll ride with a highly rated driver, and with live trip tracking, you'll follow along the whole ride to their friends' houses that all sound the same. Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
Bye, Mom.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you.
I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or whatever movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up? Welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host, Iris, and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley.
Today, we're talking a movie, a precursor to our Halloween season here at Or Whatever Movies, from 2024, the not sequel, not prequel, smack dab in the middle, Alien, Romulus.
Smack dab in the middle with bleeding from all sides and all things alien.
Bleeding. That's an interesting choice of words.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning Alien, the first of the franchise, and aliens bleed into Alien Romulus, story-wise?
Not just that. Prometheus, Covenant, Resurrection, all of these movies, maybe not Alien versus Predator, but kinda. This movie has dust from the entire Alien franchise on it.
AKA writers Alvarez and 3 others did a good job for writing within the Alien universe.
Let's clarify good job, shall we?
Yes, let's do.
So I did not trust this guy, Fede Alvarez, as far as I could throw him. Don't Breathe was fine. I was not a fan, as we discussed, of his remake of The Evil Dead. And this is Ridley Scott's domain. Ridley Scott came back for Prometheus and Covenant, the director of the original Alien, and he had one more supposedly in the pipe, and then Fox or whatever greenlit the Fede Alvarez one. And Ridley Scott was, well, I better come on board then for this one, and produced it. But it was his thing, and to varying degrees of success. And to have this new guy step in, I was like, I don't know, man. Especially for horror based on The Evil Dead, not sure. This is his jam. He's very invested, knows every frame of every Alien movie, supposedly is a big movie nerd. But this is also Fox, now Disney. And thus the Alien Queen and I guess the Xenomorph are both Disney princesses. And you know what happens when Disney gets a hold of beloved franchises and properties.
And what's that?
They milk it for every ounce. They slightly Disneyfy it. You know, this one, it feels more like an independent movie without so much studio interference. But unfortunately, I'm old. And because I'm old, I am burdened with wisdom and knowledge and thus perspective. And I know the Alien franchise pretty darn well myself. And so when this movie started, just top to bottom, they're making us feel, hey, this is an Alien movie. We're Disney and we own Fox now, and this isn't Ridley Scott, but this is an Alien movie. We can prove it to you. And from the opening frames, I was like, oh, Alien. And I have it in me to be an ultra nerd about Alien. And this one was so firmly entrenched in the Alien lore and visual imagery and throwbacks, callbacks in the way that only Disney can do, that I was a little bit shocked and I don't want to say put off, because I adored 70-80% of this movie and was like, this is exactly what I want. And then I went very quickly, like an avocado. I turned so quickly, so abruptly, and without warning that I was like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate it.
So where did they fail?
By cramming every single thing into every square inch of Romulus. This is like an alien hoarder storage unit. And me as an Alien fan, and like, oh my God, I totally want to see that storage unit. There's props and throwbacks and all the stuff that I love. And then you find that you can't move, that you can't walk through there. And it's just more frustrating and overwhelming than it is a nostalgic experience. The quiet open, the title sequence, those weird plasma thrusters that were just like light and water. Exactly, like so Ridley Scott. The bar sign, the sign that says bar in the work colony or whatever, the mining colony, so reminiscent of Hadley's Hope from Aliens. It was nonstop.
While you were catching this reference there and this callback here, Brian was like settling in for a nap next to me in the theater. I think for someone who's not firmly entrenched, not aware of how the Alien franchise works, it's a super slow start.
Yes. Okay, I can totally see that.
Where we're like, okay, where's the story going and when is it going to get started? When do we get some alien action? The only Disney cue that I got from at least the first part of Romulus was the fact that it was kids. I felt like it was kidified because our main characters were kids. But I'd be curious what Disneyfication means to you. Does it mean that something's watered down? Or does it mean that something becomes accessible to a broader movie-going audience?
Exactly. It's a combination, especially when you're dealing with legacy franchises. It's a combination of fan service and then accessibility. This is either your 7th Alien movie or whatever, and you know all the stuff, or it could be your very first Alien movie, given that Romulus is more or less disconnected from the other events, except not at all. This was essentially The Force Awakens for Alien fans. Force Awakens traded so heavily on the original Star Wars, almost exactly the same plot, but with legacy characters returning, with all the familiar stuff, and just enough so that they can say that it's a new Star Wars movie, but it treads so heavily. My enthusiasm was tempered by Fede Alvarez's track record and just my personal view of him as a director. So I was bracing, but I was still insistent, and I had to see it.
So you said 80%. You're into it, and then 20% you hated it, and you turned like an avocado. Was that chronological?
Yes.
So what was the turning point?
This thing is all about the birth cycle and mother from the original movie. A lot of ages in Romulus, and that naturally leads to this regeneration or birth of this alien creature it could be like, whoa, to people who had never seen it. But if you've seen Alien Resurrection, I was like, I cannot believe, did you learn nothing? Why are you ruining this? Because it was directly taken from that movie. They learned a few lessons and they modeled it differently, but they didn't learn the ultimate lesson, which is that was one of the most reviled moments, if not the most, in the entire franchise. Don't do that. And then they did it. I was astounded and very upset.
Sorry, what did they do exactly?
They did an alien-human hybrid baby.
I thought you would have loved that. I thought that would be the culmination of what you call moving a franchise forward, having it evolve literally into its next phase.
Yeah, except they moved the franchise back to 1997 for undoubtedly the worst moment.
So did you see it coming the moment you found out that Kaylee Spaney's boyfriend's sister was pregnant?
I didn't see it coming because I thought she was dead. And I was like, I get it. We're continuing this theme of motherhood, I guess, and death. And, it's no problem to kill a baby. You try to kill the baby of the bald girl, right? The chest burster, you spend the whole movie trying to kill it. And I couldn't have imagined that they would have gone back to the alien baby thing.
So it was the reveal of the hybrid where you were like, nope, and you checked out?
The problem is it wasn't terrible. It was infinitely better than Alien Resurrection. I balked at the concept and the fact that they didn't learn their lesson, but the alien hybrid baby was a direct connection to Prometheus, to Covenant, moving the story forward, which is what those two movies definitely did, that maybe what also wasn't received so well. But it was unsettling and scary and very much a final boss fight. And it wasn't terrible in its execution. Just the idea that they pushed that forward as the Act 3 culmination, as the denouement, as it were, that really upset me. So at the time, I was like, I hate this. But a little bit of a brown avocado isn't terrible. If you cut out those bits, you can still enjoy an avocado.
It's true. They're pretty resilient that way. And even when they're brown, you can just, shave off the top layer. So how did the 97 version get it more wrong?
Well, in the simplest terms, the alien hybrid human baby was more humanoid. It had like furrowed Wall-E eyebrows and was like, and it was almost like, mama, or whatever. It was more like a skull face. And this one was more the engineers from Prometheus. They kind of accelerated things. Covenant made sure we saw, because obviously in the original Alien, the chest burster very quickly sheds its skin and becomes a full-size, scary as hell xenomorph. Covenant, we got to see the progress of the alien as it grows and tears people apart very quickly. This one accelerated that even more, so that infant was an 8-foot-tall, scary thing within minutes.
At least it seemed like minutes. It didn't seem like much time had passed story-wise because the characters didn't have a ton of business.
And we were pacing it with the countdown of the imminent destruction of the ship.
Right, exactly. That's true. Which was only 30 minutes.
Right.
I think the first scare we got was when the droid grabs her in the beginning.
That was the other... No, he was just face down, so we couldn't see that it was supposed to be Ian Holm.
Brian had trouble with the Ian Holm VFX, but I thought that given that he is artificial intelligence, it kind of worked that he was a little manufactured.
Ian Holm unfortunately passed away a few years ago. Wasn't his voice and that digital effect that Ash had when he died in the original Alien, I can't lie about your chances, and it's digitized, goes a long way in masking the fact that it wasn't his voice. I didn't have a problem with them bringing him back or him being kind of limited because he was a damaged, half-melted synthetic, but it was like they projected the face of Ian Holm on a balloon or a mannequin head. The CG was so unconvincing, and to Fede Alvarez's credit, a lot of this movie was practical. We had actual aliens, whereas in Covenant, the last Alien movie we saw, the alien was almost entirely digital. So this one felt more practical, which I really, really liked. And the face huggers and all the stuff, it's augmented, but it's primarily practical. And so much so that I wonder if Fede Alvarez is not good at judging and directing visual effects, because Rook needed a lot of work, in my opinion.
I kind of thought that was the aesthetic that they were going for, which works better when he's on video camera than it does when he's, propped up on the control panels and stuff or whatever.
100%. I think they should have further hidden him on the remote thing and then put all their resources into his limited time on camera, so to speak, where we see a close-up of his face. Keep that to a minimum, but hit it as hard as you possibly can, and then mask the crappy effect through glitchy, grainy monitor stuff.
I think we picked and choose what bothered us about Alien Romulus. For Brian, it was the visual effects and the pacing. For you, it was the clutter, that the clutter became overwhelming for you. For me, I got hung up on Andy.
You got interesting.
The android artificial intelligence brother guy?
Yes.
And I'm wondering if there's precedent for like a positive human android relationship in the Alien franchise.
Sure. Obviously, there's always the potential for the synthetics like Rook or Ash to go bad, and that's what Ripley backed up against when she first met Bishop, who was unfailingly supportive and protective for the entirety of Aliens. So you can see how Andy would be a good guy, but also have the potential for bad guyness. So yes, there are positive relations, and I took to Andy immediately, but what was your problem with him? Was it that the android was positioned as a more sympathetic character?
Well, it was clear that Andy possessed artificial strength, so why is he so timid and childlike in the mining colony? Why did they beat him up? Why is he so sensitive and twitchy? Like, is this technology, is it like early hard drive where you like tip the computer 40 degrees and and it starts wigging out. Like, he's not a solid state. Like, what's going on there?
No, he was a salvaged android for sure that her dad pulled out of the trash, quite literally.
Okay, so he's not the latest model or whatever, and she has to reset him like half a dozen times throughout the course of the movie, where he's wigging out and twitching and bleeding milk blood or whatever. And so that, he was as much of a nuisance as he was help. I guess it was, what was Kaylee Spaney's name?
Rain.
Yeah. Which I thought was Ray, which I thought was from Star Wars.
Oh, gee, you got some parallel to Star Wars? Shocking.
But it was her attachment to Andy. Like, I get it. He's like a brother, and probably something she uses to hold on to her parents in a different, previous, better life. But she's also perfectly willing to abandon him for their little mission back to the planet with the sun. And this all culminated with the ultimately groan-worthy, Andy, are you in there?
This episode is brought to you by Jira. Ever wonder how those big marketing campaigns that make headlines get delivered on time? It all starts with Jira, the only project management tool you need to plan and track work across any team. Every step of that campaign is organised in one place, from launching the campaign all the way back to designing ads and writing creative briefs. Get started on your next big marketing campaign idea today in Jira.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Where I think the whole movie theater shifted in their seats. Come on, that didn't bug you?
Look, Kaylee Spaney is basically Julia Butters in this movie. All the kids are kids, and I was relieved when they started dying. Honestly, it was no more evident that these kids weren't important to me and they were alien fodder than by the fact that when the one kid spoke every time, it was like Benicio del Toro in The Usual Suspects. And he's like, I flip you for real. And he's like, what? What are you saying? Did you get hung up on that kid's accent every time? Oh, in the goddamn piss house, all that fucking truck. What did you say?
The hot-headed cousin who was also the baby daddy?
I don't know and kind of don't care, but I will acknowledge that Rain was not a part of that crew. She was only along because they needed Andy and his clearance protocol, or his clearance or whatever. But she did what siblings do. You know, when you bring your nerdy younger sibling or whatever along and then he doesn't fit in and they make fun of him, then you side with the group and you ridicule your sibling to try to fit in. But ultimately, you really care about that person and you feel bad about it. But it was about social acceptance. But you're saying that her relationship with Andy is what bugged you and how she had no problem connecting with him while also simultaneously kind of dismissing him and going along with the group. But that doesn't speak to Andy in particular, who was undoubtedly my favorite part of this movie. British actor, never seen him before, and I loved him as the Andy character for this programming that I don't know if that physically meant that he would be protective and turn inward, even though they couldn't possibly hope to hurt him. And yet when he gets the chip in him and he stands up straighter and squares his shoulders and is terrifying and cold and ruthless and logical, it was fantastic. Maybe I was drowning and just reaching for a float or the edge of the boat or something and grasped onto Andy, but I was enthralled by that character.
I think you just liked his little knitted brows and his little faux stutter.
So much Disney Wall-E emotiveness.
From a machine.
His character shift was mechanical in process, so you couldn't really trust him. I was confident that was going to fight through the new chip programming. Just kind of scrambled him further and she had to keep resetting him or whatever. But very reminiscent of the Terminator and the switching of chips and stuff, and how John Connor ascribes emotional importance to their relationship when really he's just a machine who ultimately would sacrifice himself, spoiler, Terminator 2, for the good of the child and for humanity at large. I thought Andy was going to go that route, but not so much. And so if we were going to go down the route of all the references and all the throwbacks and connections to every single Alien movie, we could fill up.
Which I can tell you so badly want to do.
We could fill up the entire podcast episode. But I want to talk about Romulus as an experience. Number one, we saw it in IMAX, and that was grand. It was almost full frame, shot with cameras for IMAX theater format. So great. Basically, let's get the kids off the planet and get them to the thing, which apparently was the Nostromo. The crash, I'm not sure why ultimately the alien, the acid blood breaching the hull would have been a bad thing, because the ship resealed itself after the shuttle crash, right? That like Titanicked along like the iceberg, and it like poked little holes all throughout the hull.
I think that was just like in the hangar bay or wherever there was already an airlock.
So check it. When this movie was released, they released a promo image. There was a call box in the right-hand corner of the image that was the call box from Alien Isolation, which was the video game. And it was so specific that you recognized that call box, because that was every time you would go into a hairy area, that would be your save station. Oh, there's a call box. Let me save my progress on the video game because I know something hairy is about to happen. I'm about to walk into a fight. And indeed, in almost all of the fights or the major sequences when something big was going to happen, one of those call boxes appeared on screen. So that spoke to the video game, which for a long time, many people assumed that Alien Romulus was going to be. We knew that this movie from the promo stuff took place between Alien and Aliens, which is also when the video game Alien Isolation took place, that Rain was going to be Amanda Ripley, who was going in search of her mother and has her own alien experience. And so I fully expected the Romulus to be the Sevastopol, which was the space station on which Ripley's daughter runs around and gets entangled with an alien. It wasn't that video game, although there were certain elements, but this movie played almost consistently like a video game. And the scenes felt contained, and the centerpiece visual effects like the shuttle crash felt like cinematics, and it just felt like video game scenes throughout. It's very risky to say this is based on a video game. It really tends to hurt properties. So I feel like they avoided that, and at the same time made a very video game style movie. Whether or not that was intentional, I can't say for sure. Did you get that feel?
Maybe in the sense that I wanted to control and steer this storyline.
Oh, man. You remember the Spooge Gauntlet?
Ew, what?
Which they really want to be a memorable sequence. This is when all the aliens are coming at her. She has the modified, by the way, very much video game in the easier settings, because you can adjust the difficulty of your video games. You can adjust your weapons to auto aim. So you click one button to auto aim and lock on a target and then press the trigger. Very much like the pulse rifles that they had, which were straight out of Aliens, but they happen to aim for you. Very much like a video game. So she splatters all the aliens, who bleed everywhere, in zero gravity. So the blood, I don't know how, wouldn't touch the walls, especially wouldn't touch the floor to burn through the hull. But if you'll notice, all the aliens got dead. There were no alien bodies, none of them actively bleeding or cluttering up the hallway. It was just the blood floating, and she had to navigate through the spooge using her limited experience in zero G. Felt very much like a video game sequence. Okay, for this part, you have to use the skills that you've honed over the course of the game to navigate in space and use your thrusters to go and not touch the alien blood. Felt very much like that.
The other thing that was very distracting was all of the ship stuff, and how did she know so much about this mining ship? How did they get it?
She was supposed to know.
This is not the stuff you want to talk about. You don't want to talk about why the ship goes on autopilot and goes from autopilot to manual willy-nilly. You don't want to talk about how convenient it is that the ship crashes in the Romulus hangar bay, because you just want to nerd out on alien lore.
It's not that I don't want to talk about it. I don't know the answer to these questions. There was definite weirdness in this movie. How she knew as much as she did. They tried to explain it away by saying, I learned all my... They said, I learned how to shoot, or he knows about weapons from video games that they were playing.
Right. Or books on video games.
That's awfully telling. Why was it necessary for Andy to say, "Get away from her, you bitch," from Aliens, direct quote, that hadn't happened yet? Consider that Andy called the alien bitch, which is a direct throwback to Aliens, but also he may have picked up that insult because all of Rain's friends, I'm using air quotes, were calling him bitch, and so he perceived that as an insult. Is that possible? And is it enough?
I think it's giving a lot of credit.
Rook, no to say, perfect organism, and I can't lie about your chances, all that stuff. It was so tied in where they crammed everything in that they possibly could that it was a little bit distracting. But it only started with the one that was born out of What's-Her-Nuts, and there was a scene. Where were all the other xenomorphs, and why didn't they show up until later?
It seemed like there were a lot of them.
So the other aliens must have been in stasis on the ship somewhere, and they were running around making noise and crashing shuttles into the ship before they finally agreed to wake up and come and help their newly born brother or whatever.
Do other Alien fans agree with you about Alien Romulus?
I wanted the Goose's opinion because he's with me in terms of Alien fandom or whatever. We both kind of have the same problems. So when I saw it, I texted him and said, I need you to see Romulus. And I said, I need your thoughts. So he went and saw it and came back angry. The fans seem to embrace it because The Force Awakens, Star Wars The Force Awakens was a huge hit. Alien Romulus made up for Prometheus and Covenant's sort of middling to low box office. It's cleaning up in China right now. It's like the #1 movie. This movie is definitely a success and will further the Alien franchise by allowing for more films because of the audience reception of this one. Like The Shining, Alien was pitched as Jaws in space, but really it's kind of a haunted house movie. And you're a bunch of kids and you've got flashlights and stuff and the gravity's kind of weird and things aren't exactly right and they're spooky and stuff. And then you awake the ancient evil and spend the rest of the movie running. And so in that way, it was effective and people seem to respond to that.
Especially the fans. And I think that these two IMDb user reviews kind of encapsulate this idea of cramming it all in. One is 7 stars, high-budget Alien fan film, and the other 6 stars, Alien Greatest Hits album, sung by cover band.
That's really apt, I'm sad to say, because Fede Alvarez, he's new to the Alien franchise. He's not established. Ridley Scott producing it definitely is, but this is an entirely new cast, Ash/Rook/Alien Home aside, but very much in line, sort of throughout.
Well, this contrasts with your assessment of the film. 9 stars, patience will be rewarded. The third act makes the whole trip worthwhile.
Maybe if this is your first or even your second Alien movie. I told you before this, revisit Alien, because otherwise there's no impact. You're like, why is this random old poorly CG'd robot? Because that's Ian Holm, because that's Ash, because his character sets the tone for Alien in that things are orderly and very scientific and they very quickly go awry and evil manifests. That was the fan service part. And I'm not sure how it works for a new, do people who have never seen Alien movies embrace this one because it feels original and scary to them?
We'll leave that as a rhetorical question. 8 stars. It starts like Alien, continues like Aliens, and ends like Prometheus.
And Alien Resurrection. What was the significance of the alien fossil thing? Can aliens hibernate like he was presumably going to do in the original Alien? Do they have this chrysalis period that we didn't see before? Is this the new addition to Alien? There was so much that they were chasing that I didn't feel compelled to make all the connective threads. I wasn't like, this is The Shining, and I have to do the deepest dive imaginable because it all has to make sense to me. It doesn't, and I was kind of okay with that. So my nerding out was more resistant than anything to seriously, you had to tie in every single movie. This couldn't be solo, a Star Wars story, standalone type story where it's not the same characters, it's not tied in, and a new group. It's like the Jurassic Park versus Jurassic World. Just get some new people in there to be terrorized by dinosaurs and let us get out of here.
What is Alien, the Alien franchise, about? And does Romulus succeed in moving that forward?
As a concept, it was a haunted house movie or it was Jaws. It was an unknowable, lurking terror with one of the most unique looking aliens of all time. It's what made it stand out because it was so different and in some ways risky. And then what it became was this corporatization and biological engineering of people and subjugating of people. You know, they're deep space truckers who have to answer this beacon. They are unwitting pawns of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation who's trying to preserve this perfect organism for engineering and biological weaponry.
I'm aware that my role in this conversation is to facilitate for you and all the Alien fans out there, so you're welcome. And I'll just tip my cap and say, good. And you can give your rating.
I will give Andy and the actor who played Andy as a contained character a totally rating. I will give this movie just above the line rating to be all right because I really enjoyed most of it. And my reaction to the hybrid alien baby was a gut reaction from 25 years ago that was just, it was too much for me. I'm still too hurt and battered. I'm suspicious, just like they're suspicious of synthetics. But ultimately, did I enjoy it? Yeah, more than the goose. I liked the slow, creepy, languid pace. I wished that the full-size aliens had moved more. They seemed very static. And
they did.
But it felt very conveniently like a video game where even if you die, you don't die because you just keep playing and the setups are endless and compartmentalized. This was the best Alien video game.
And the best Fede Alvarez film, and that's our discussion on Alien Romulus, currently available in theaters. Check out our other discussions on Alien and Aliens at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts. And stick around for Halloween 2024 at orwhatevermovies.com because it's going to be a doozy. 818-835-0473 or whatevermovies@gmail.com is how you get in touch with us, and we love to hear from you, especially you Alien franchise fans, because this one was over my head, but I have a feeling you guys are all nerding out right now. So let us know, and we'll see you next time.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast. Hi everyone, I'm Geraldine Glass, a leader in the field of music as medicine, and I'm excited to share with you my newest release of healing sound, Pentatonic Visions, with Chris Scholler and Electricast Records. Immerse yourself in ethereal realms where the harmonies of nature, tribal rhythms, and soundscapes blend with the crystal singing bowls. It's out now, streaming on all platforms. Electricast.